What's up, y'all? Sparta here. So for this video, what I want to do is I want to finally do LG V60 versus S21 Ultra. So I know a lot of people who say, "Hey, an LG phone versus a Samsung phone, and it's the Ultra. It's a definite win for the Ultra because it just has 120 hertz and has a Quad HD display and all that crap, right?" But the V60 was my phone of the year last year. I had the S20 FE, and I decided since I did want to give that phone to my mom because she was hurting for an upgrade, she was still on the S7, for Christ's sake, um, that I just decided I'll get the S21 Ultra, and lo and behold, it's here. And I've had it for over a week, about 2 weeks, and almost 2 weeks, not about 2 weeks. I've had the V60 since it's come out, and I use this phone heavy. I I guess I'm one of the evangelists for this phone, and a lot of people tend to sit here and say, "Oh, but it just has a 1080p display and it's 60 hertz and it only has two cameras and all that crap," right? And what I want to do is I want to detail as to why that really doesn't matter and why you could still, even if LG doesn't come out with a V series successor this year, why I would still say you can, consider the V60 even over the S21 Ultra. And this isn't me saying that one phone is trash and one phone isn't. This isn't me saying that the V60 is the best and the S21 Ultra is complete garbage. I don't feel that way. But they trade blows in a lot of ways, even in the camera department. And I'll detail this now. So both have 5,000 milliamp hour batteries, Snapdragon 865, Snapdragon 888. A 64 megapixel main sensor. I think it's a 16 megapixel wide angle lens. You got your Z camera for your, which is just a depth sensor. If you have an iPhone, it's basically LiDAR. You got your LED flash. You have 10x crop zoom on the V60 with the 64 megapixel lens, and a lot of people say, "Oh, this not as good." It compared very well. Like, it was honestly indistinguishable between, say, an iPhone 12 Pro / 12 Pro Max, a Note 10, and the only one that kind of looked better was the S20 FE, but it was very slightly, and I was still like, it's comparable enough to where I would either use either or. And spoiler alert, even with the 10x optical zoom sensor on this phone, I still feel that in certain lighting conditions, like the 10x crop zoom on here can still compare fairly well if you're just doing a if you're just doing a shot and you're not pixel peeping, right? Obviously, there's going to be some smoothing. Obviously, there's going to be some, some detail lost. It is a crop, but it does get the job done, and it does it very well. It's far better using a 64 megapixel sensor in cropping in than it is using a 12 megapixel sensor, which also just does a software crop anyway, which looks even worse. For example, the 12 Pro has a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, and I'm using that to record right now. And when you would zoom in on the max zoom, which is 12x, I believe, it would over sharpen the hell out of a photo, and it just looked terrible. The V60 doesn't really do that. It's very laid back in terms of its processing when it comes to that it doesn't add a whole bunch of sharpening like LG's in the past. Like that was a notorious thing with like the G2 through maybe the G4, and it's not on the V60 really. It's not on the G8 really either. So that's just something I do want to point out. Now let's go to the monster over here. You got your 12 megapixel telephoto zoom lens up there, or no, wide angle. You have your 108 megapixel monster up here. You have your, I believe this is the 10x zoom lens, and that's the 3x, and then you have your laser autofocus, while the iPhone wants to sit here and constantly focus on my hand. I'm just gonna say this right now. The star of the show in terms of the S21 Ultra is the three, or the stars of the show is the 3 and the 10x zoom lenses. They're optical and they look fantastic. Like they just do. The 108 megapixel sensor is fine. It bends down to 12 megapixels, whereas the 64 megapixel sensor on here bends down to 16 megapixels, and you get more details. You get more detail out of the V60's overall image, and it focuses faster, and it doesn't need a laser autofocusing system for that. It, especially after the Android 11 update, the V60, and this is something that quite a few reviewers have said too, it's not just me, the V60 seems to focus quicker than it did on Android 10. And to me, that's just nice. I bring it to a subject that's like very small, very hard to see. The S21 Ultra would struggle to get it. And like maybe 80%, 70 to 80% of the time, I would have to go to manual mode to get it. But say for a picture like this, right? Where I'm zooming in. That is hyper detailed. And it's not in the 64 megapixel mode, it's just in the main auto mode. That is fairly detailed right there. It just looks very nice. The S21 Ultra, while it's no slouch, is most definitely no slouch. You can see the detail loss. So you can see the slight lack of detail. So let me go to the exact same photo. It's this one. And let me just A/B it here. Let me go to the better photo, I believe. Like one, the photo is far more dull. You probably won't really see that through this iPhone's camera, mainly because they have auto HDR, but the colors are richer on the V60. Both have HDR on. The S21 Ultra is dimmer, whereas the V60 is brighter. I had to go into pro mode and use I only use manual focus, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about, oh, I just changed the weight balancing and all that. No, I just used the manual mode to focus. Whereas on the V60, you can manual focus in auto mode. So that's a really good benefit right there. Honestly, in terms of background blur, obviously the S21 Ultra decimates it. Larger sensor, it should do that. But the V60 is also no slouch in that department either. While this looks more close to life, it's also punching up the colors really nicely as well. It doesn't look like a Samsung auto mode photo where it's hyper punched up and it just looks bad. This looks really nice. And I don't even think I had to manually focus for this. I think I literally just I booted up the camera, put the phone camera to the subject, and then took the photo, and then it just focused. It was really nice. it almost felt like the old dual pixel autofocus days. It literally felt like that, and it was just nice to feel that, you know. Let me go to, where's that? This photo. This photo is the one that I do want to talk about quite a bit. This is where you'll see the differences in color science, and both of these are at 10x zoom. From a clear look in terms of, like, say, just side by side, I don't really prefer one's color science over the other. The V60 is definitely more natural, and what you will notice when you use the S21 Ultra and you start to use the other, and you start to say, you take one picture in 1x, you take the other picture in 3x, and you take the other picture in 10x, it will accentuate the sunset even more and punch the colors up even more. And I honestly feel this doesn't look bad at all. I'm not trying to be like, oh, it looks terrible. No, it looks nice. So let's zoom in here, right? As you can see on the V60, you lose detail in the trees right here. It's a little bit fuzzy right there, whereas obviously it's sharp right there, as it should be. It is an optical lens, but as I said, let me go back here. There's no discernible difference aside from the color temperature and the color science, and I believe both would do very well in terms of, say, a social media ready photo. So that's just really nice. So yeah, let me go back and let me do my typical other stuff. I just want to get the camera stuff out the way first so people could comment on that. The V60 is going to stomp this phone in terms of audio. It just is. Headphone jack, quad DAC. I like the speakers better on the V60. I know that's going to be controversial for a lot of channels that think that the S21 Ultra has amazing speakers. It really does have really good speakers. But the V60, especially when you set them up properly, get louder than this. It just does. Like, Dolby Atmos is cool. It's really good. But LG's 3D sound engine, and then you go into the equalizer, and then you pump all the bands up. It has a wider sound stage, and it's louder than this. And it just sounds better to me. It just does, in my personal opinion. This iPhone is getting a little bit warm. To be fair, it is 4K 60. Let's talk about displays now. Now, this is something a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is just where the S21 Ultra decimates. And I will say this. This is a beautiful display. This is a gorgeous display. You really shouldn't expect anything less from Samsung. I like how it has the slightest curve. Probably can't even really see it all that well. It has the slightest curve, but it's not curved like a Note 10 to where you basically feel like you can't hold the phone. I like that. It's very nice. It feels nice to hold. It feels good in the hands. And it's just nice. It's nice to have a flatter display that a case will indeed wrap around the front of the display and protect it. Like the case I have, the Spigen Tough Armor case I have. I did drop this phone yesterday in the case at work, and it's fine. No problems at all. It's just nice. And that's just the Quad HD 120 hertz adaptive 120 hertz again is really nice. It doesn't make the V60 feel like a sluggish phone to me. The V60 still feels really smooth, feels very snappy, very responsive. And in things like the camera app, where the V60 in daytime will be at a smooth 60 frames per second frame rate, this is still at a choppy 30. And to me, I feel that matters more than just, oh, it just has a smooth 120 hertz if I just move through apps and I scroll through pages, and certain games do play at 120 hertz, which is nice. There's more to it than that. And I feel the S21 Ultra definitely has a very good display. I do feel in terms of brightness, both they're on par. Like they're definitely on par. The V60 has a very bright, very nice display, and in Android 11, you can make it go even brighter. And the S21 Ultra has a very bright, very nice display in sunlight. You won't have any sort of issues with either. In terms of, say, front-facing cameras, 10 megapixels is the best camera LG has ever put on their phones in terms of selfies. I do feel it's serviceable. I don't take many selfies, but when I did take selfies on this phone, I was very satisfied with it. The 40 megapixel stabilized camera on the S21 Ultra is also very nice. It's good, like detailed and good. What else do you want me to say? In terms of substantiality, I guess, would you say? I think the V60 is definitely the taller and wider phone still. It's gonna be hard to get these AB. They pretty much have the same size display, but I think the V60 is 6.8 inch, whereas the S21 Ultra is 6.7 inch. They both pretty much have the same size display. And you can't really go wrong with either. Even though the V60 does have a 1080p OLED, it's crisp. I don't have any sort of issues with how it handles anything in terms of that. And it's just nice. It really is just nice. People overstate the need of like a quad HD display, honestly. Especially when out of the box, Samsung puts it in 1080p anyway. I had to go to the display settings and change it to Quad HD. So does it really matter? Not really, but it's just a nice thing to have. Same with 120 hertz. Not a deal breaker for me, but it's definitely nice. I will say, comparing this to the S20 FE though, the 120 hertz feels smoother on here. It might be the chipset. It might be the fact that it's adaptive. It just feels better. It feels smoother. It feels faster. And that's a really nice bonus. The in-display fingerprint sensor, the S21 Ultra is going to stomp the V60. The ultrasonic versus a capacitive one, it's just going to do it. I don't have any sort of problems with the speed of the V60's fingerprint sensor, but this is just way faster. And that's something that should be said. In terms of like, yeah, that is pretty much it in terms of that. Let's talk about battery life. I haven't done a full breakdown of the battery life of my S21 Ultra yet. I do plan on doing that in the future. But in terms of how it compares to the V60, which last year was my battery king, 15 and a half hours of screen on time watching YouTube, 9 hours playing 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross auto grinding, 5.5 hours like playing King of Fighters All-Star, I think it was also 5 hours playing Lineage 2 Revolution. This phone does it, and to me, that's just very nice. I haven't really done anything in terms of that yet on here, but in terms of like Bluetooth performance, it's pretty much the same as the V60. Both have 5,000 milliamp hour batteries. Both have 25 watt charging. I legit use the 25 watt charger that comes with my V60 to charge both of these phones, and it's both phones charge fast. This charges faster than this, but LG is also making a play so that the battery lasts longer, like over time. So this charges in like maybe an hour and 10 minutes, where this will charge in an hour and 49 minutes. Honestly, I don't really care. Both phones last good enough, but the V60 definitely has the longevity edge because it just it will stay on 100 for like maybe 2-3 hours. And then by the time I get back from work, it will still be on 90 when it's just idling here. In the 90s when it's just idling here. That's just nice. Whereas the S21 Ultra, very much like the S20 FE, the moment I leave the house, 99%. And that's after just taking it off the charger. So that's something that I feel is bad. But by the time I get off work, which now I get off at 5:30 a.m., I do end up leaving the day with like 73, 74%, which is around the same that I would be on the V60. So that's really good. I really don't have any sort of issues with that. The 120 hertz definitely does impact the battery life, but I don't feel it impacts it as much as the S20 FE did, which had a constant 120 hertz. And when they were talking about the adaptive 120 hertz, I had concerns that you would be able to feel when it adapts, and you really don't feel it at all. So that's really nice. Yeah, both of them are just really good in terms of battery life. Can't really go wrong with either. I will have a more detailed breakdown of the battery on the S21 Ultra coming soon. I just got to make up the time to do it. So that may end up being me taking the SIM card out of the phone and just putting it in my 12 Pro. Maybe, we'll see, just so I can leave the phone and let it do its thing. So yeah. In terms of what else? Let's talk about video capabilities. This can do, both of these phones can do 8K. This can do 8K 26 FPS. This can do 8K 24. Even though the marketing does say 8K 30, I will legitimately show you guys. Let me go into pro video mode here. Oh, this is gonna be difficult. Let me put it down here. It's not pro video, that's pro photo. So let me go up here. As you guys can see, no, it actually is. Did they update it? Because I swear to God, it said UHD. That's 4K. That's why. I'm stupid. Stop doing that. 8K, 24 frames per second, right there. Where's the V60? Let me go over here real quick. Oh, wait, no, I gotta go to. I keep doing this, but you can't access them in here. What you gotta do is you gotta go to the settings. You gotta go to 8K. And as you guys can see right here, like I said, 26 frames per second. So 8K 24 versus 8K 26, not really that big of a deal. But the V60 is clearly eking out more out of its processor than what the S21 Ultra is doing. Both can do 4K 60. Both are really good at it. 4K 60 on all the lenses on the on the main three sensors. Not on the main three, on the main and the ultra wide. It looks really nice, but the problem is that you can't switch between them seamlessly. You have to do what you have to do on the iPhone, and you have to pause the video. You have to stop the video and then go into ultra wide. Why can't we do it like the G8, man, where you could just seamlessly go between the two? It just doesn't make sense to me. But nonetheless, you got it. In terms of overall output, in terms of that, I do advise you to be in the pro mode for both. I think the problem that you're going to face with the V60 in particular is that the V60 does have more powerful mics in terms of hardware, but their software compression, or the software noise reduction is not great. It's a little bit heavy-handed, whereas on the S21 Ultra, it's just really good. It's really solid. And I do feel that that's something that needs to be said. I do feel that S21 Ultra is probably the best if you want to do outside vlogs, whereas the V60 is going to be really good if you're doing more indoor kind of activities, or if it's just not that windy out, or you don't have that a hefty amount of traffic outside. So that's just something to keep in mind. Otherwise, both phones have fantastic mics. Um, you do get more options for microphones on the S21 Ultra, where you can switch between a USB mic or a Bluetooth mic and things like that, and that's really nice. And in the Pro mode, you do get the options to switch, have it face more towards you, or, toward the subject, which is very LG V20 like. And I don't know, this phone can do it. It literally gives you that option. Let me go to video mode, auto video mode. You do voice bokeh, right? It will literally give you that option. I don't know why they don't add that to the Pro mode, but you don't get a wind noise filter on here. You don't get to, adjust the gain, the noise, the low cut filter, and any of that in the Pro mode. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So they trade blows in a lot of ways, and I do feel either or are really good. But if you want the most out of them, you're going to have to go to the Pro modes. So that's just something to keep in mind. Call quality, both of them do really well. I don't really have any sort of issues with the speakers on them at all. Bluetooth call quality is also really good. Obviously, it's going to depend on the Bluetooth headset you're using, so keep that in mind. Both stay connected, no problem. Whether it be to my LG Tone Free FN7s, my Soundcore Live.2s, or when I had the AirPods Pro, no problem. So that's just something that I do want to bring up. Haptics, both have really good haptics. I kind of say it's a tie. Like, I don't necessarily feel one is better than the other. Both feel very nice. Both feel tactile. Both feel like you're pressing keys on the keyboard and not, it's all springy and it feels cheap. Both of them are really good. In terms of the overall user interface, I do feel the V60 utilizes its big size better than the S21 Ultra. So let me go into YouTube here. Let me lower the volume. So as you guys can see, I tilt this phone and look at how it utilizes both the brightness bar and the volume bar right here, right? So on the Ultra, I do the exact same thing. Come on, phone. Okay. I do the exact same thing. You don't get any sort of option to put the volume bar in it, and you get way more toggles in the V60 short menu, than quick menu toggles, than you do on the S21 Ultra. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. In terms of customization, I will say that the S21 Ultra is going to be better in terms of that. The Good Lock app gives you a lot of options that you can utilize to make your phone yours. So that's just something that is very nice as well. It's very nice either way. I don't really have a problem with the V60 not having that sort of level of customization. Again, I do feel that the V60 just is fine the way it is in terms of its customization. I don't really tend to do anything but wallpapers and maybe just home screen layout. So that is, to me, I don't necessarily feel like, I need to fully customize my lock screen, even though I did do that on the S21 Ultra, or, things like that. What else? I literally forgot what I was going to bring up. But in terms of overall longevity, in terms of what phone will get more updates, obviously the S21 Ultra will. They do plan on, I think they said 3 to 4 years of constant major software updates, whereas the V60 doesn't have any sort of, you know, any sort of pipeline. They don't really confirm or deny and confirm anything in terms of like, oh, 2 to 3 years. But the V60, for how much this phone is heavily skinned and customized and how much stuff they do put in the background of their phone, I do feel like it getting Android 11 at the beginning of March. No, it was like literally the ass end of February, I think, like the last day. um, I feel that's timely enough. Again, for skinned phones, and for phones that don't do nearly as well as, say, a Galaxy, I don't necessarily feel like judging them on the exact same curve is fair, because if you're just gonna get a Galaxy anyway, you're gonna be totally fine with what you get from here. And both phones have optional stylus support, so that's very nice. Both do support active stylize, so that's really good. Obviously you'll get the S Pen for that, whereas you can get any active stylus on here and it'll work just fine. And yeah, what else? I guess that's it. Half-hour monster video, 4K 60. It was a good way to test this 12 Pro, but yeah, I really do like the colors so far. But yeah, this is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for support. Which phone do you have? Which phone do you prefer? Yada yada yada. Please don't be toxic in the comments. Hey, what do you mean? The S21 Ultra totally decimates the V60. What do you mean the V60 stomps the S21 Ultra? Both of these are very good options, okay? If you're going to want the dual screen, the dual screen case with a active stylus, and the active stylus also works on the second screen, you're gonna unlock a whole bunch of a slew, a plethora of multitasking and power user options when it comes to the V60. The V60 is a powerful phone. It still is really good. Just because it has a Snapdragon 865 does not mean it's obsolete. It's really good. The cameras are really strong. I will say, next time LG upgrade the wide angle, do something that, say, OnePlus or any other manufacturer does. It has a larger wide angle so that it's just better for, one, low light, and two, for video. That's just very nice. Samsung S21 Ultra, really strong phone. I'm really impressed with it so far. Do I feel like it can completely replace the Note? Not necessarily, but if it does if they end up not having a Note this year or ever, then I'm not really hurting. The S21 Ultra is a very good, very strong phone, very powerful phone, very capable phone. You're not going to have any sort of issues with it, aside from maybe some software gremlins with the camera, aside from like, oh, you want to use you have focus peaking on and it only focus peaks when you're actively focusing and not after you pull away from focusing and you got your subject in focus. There's issues like that do indeed make the S21 Ultra a little bit a little bit less of a content creation platform for me. Both of these are very powerful video editors. You don't really got to worry about that. V60 was the top one last year. This one is definitely beating it now. Like, it's having it halved the times in a lot of cases. And that is very nice. The V60 still does it though. I might end up using this as my video phone and this to render. That would be very sick. And due to the fact that Android does have things like nearby share, that's really solid and really nice. So this is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for support. Again, both very good phones. And again, let me know in the comment section below which one you go for. Thanks for 1,021 subscribers. I really do appreciate it. Have a good one.